Hello, my spookies. And you want to say your intro? I want to hear it in person. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah. Hey, my name is Cameron. I've just totally forgot about it because we're recording.
Well, the correct answer was hello, or hey, creeps.
Hey, creeps. My name is Cameron. Welcome back to Library Macabre, where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky.
And yeah, we're really in the spooky world. We're in the spooky universe here together. Mm-hmm. And this is the crossover to end all crossovers. Like, get lost, MCU. This is the Ohio horror nerd crossover.
Right.
For those who have not had the fortune to be introduced to the Library Macabre, it's one of my favorite booktube channels. And I mean that sincerely. I'm a massive horror, young adult horror book nerd. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea there were others until just a few years ago.
Right here.
And then for
flesh.
you to live like 20 minutes away is truly bizarre.
Uh-huh.
So, and for those who don't know me, my name is Enrique Couto, and I host Weekly Spooky, a podcast all about horror literature, featuring a brand new scary story every Wednesday. So, and we decided to sit down and join forces like a Megatron kind of thing, to talk about some of the best books to get you in that cozy fall Halloween mood. Because I was telling you before the show, you introduced me to the concept of media being cozy, and now it's the only descriptor I use.
Mm-hmm. Right, like I told you, when you're sick and you put it on the TV as you're home from work, that's cozy. So if that's what you turn to. And
when I crack open an R.L. Stein Fear Street or a mysterious Christopher Pike book or Diane Ho or any of those, I feel this warm blanket feeling. Makes me very, very happy.
Yes, I feel the same way.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, I've watched damn near all of your videos. I want to say I reached out to you during COVID or during the lockdowns. Was the first time I reached out because I was watching a ton of your videos, and then I was like, wait, Fairborn, Ohio? As in nearby?
Right, yep.
And at the time you were on a hiatus, but you were very nice to write me back, and it turns out we'd crossed paths in passing before at movie marathons.
Yes.
Big surprise, horror movie marathons.
Right.
So when it comes to Halloween, which I would assume it's safe to say is your absolute favorite time of year.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes me too.
Yes.
I mean, I'll admit this only here. Christmas is a smidge higher for me, but they're close together.
Yeah.
Christmas and Halloween are my favorite thing in the world. So when it comes to Halloween, what's one of your first go-tos? Like, what's a book that just gets you to feel like you just bit into a fresh jack-o'-lantern?
A fresh jack-o'-lantern. All right. I like that analogy. That would be The Haunted Mask, Goosebumps. Yeah. Of course, everybody's heard about The Haunted Mask. Hopefully it's not too glary because I have it in a protective cover because I am a nerd and it's a first edition. But this is my go-to. It always has been. It even still has the Halloween mask inside, which I can open it up here and show you.
Oh, man. I don't want you to hurt yourself.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's all right. The book and the TV episode are by far my absolute favorite Halloween story of all time. Love it. So this is my go-to. However, I love Halloween.
An immense amount of wonderful Halloween ephemera out there.
There is no shortage.
But of course, that book has the power of being on Halloween.
Yes.
And being about a Halloween mask.
Yes.
And that's one that I definitely read as a youngster. Because I'm about 7 years older than you. So, which is why I'm so blown away that you're so into this stuff. Because when I was a kid reading Fear Street, people were like, "You're reading Fear Street? That's like 5 years ago." And
right. Well, I've never been trendy. So.
Well, that's fair. Me neither.
So I grew up with older sisters.
Yeah, man.
So I would read all of their books. And, by the time I did get old enough, I was still reading it. So, like I said, I was always a little bit behind. Because I'm like, this stuff's cool because my older sisters did it. And it's like, no, that was years ago.
See, I had one older sister who was about 9 years older than me. And there was a Xerox box full of stuff that she didn't really want anymore. That I was just gnawing up. Chris Pike books, R.L. Stine books like The Boyfriend and the Girlfriend.
Yeah.
Those were big influences on me in just about every way. The Last Vampire by Christopher Pike, which totally got the school to call my mom because I wrote a book report where I included the part where she was buried alive waiting for AIDS to kill her. I guess a little intense for fourth grade.
Yes.
I guess. I liked the book. The funny thing is I remember they were like, he has great reading comprehension. That's definitely above his level. Not sure about the appropriateness. And my mother was like, my son reads what he wants to read.
That's good.
Oh, my mom's a tough broad.
Yeah, that's good.
She would kill me if she heard me say broad. I didn't mean it, Mom. But in fact, I'm such a nerd for this stuff. When I was I was sprucing up the set earlier. I literally,
there it is.
I literally found a copy of R.L. Stine's The Girlfriend. Like it was just hanging around. So, and this is like mine. I believe this is the one that I got from my sister. Yep, and because it was used. She got it from a friend named Amy. They would trade books.
That's awesome, because a lot of my Goosebumps books came from my sister Chelsea's friend, Allie, so her name is in all of my Goosebumps books.
My favorite is getting them used, because, I mean, you're getting them used most of the time, but getting them used and like the order page being filled out.
Yes,
with like the dreams
book
of
order.
a child.
Yes, yeah, the Scholastic book order forms.
Yeah.
I love finding those in books. That is the best feeling.
That's I always love it because I read that. I'm like, oh, I remember when I was a kid and I would like fill those things out, but never had the money, so it never actually come. But I get to sit there and read like the Christmas list of some kid I'll never meet.
Yeah,
you know, like, oh man, they really wanted some more Chris Pike.
Or if you find the like Scholastic Book Club bookmarks that you'd get at the book fairs, the really gaudy, ugly ones that I love. The only bookmarks I want to use.
I love this stuff, and I mean, it's such a nostalgia hit, and that's why I wanted to do this show. Was in particular because I've always been, and this is where you and I are going to differ a lot. I have always been a very weak reader. I have problems sitting still. I have problems focusing. I always have. Whenever I've read a book all the way from beginning to end, I've definitely had to dedicate myself to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, that's always been a part of me. And when I started Weekly Spooky, one of the special elements was that I had this, like, I had to sit down and read, like, 3,000 to 5,000 words out loud every single week. And I've become a better reader.
Yeah. The more you read, the more practice you get.
Yeah.
And I still find that, too. If ever I take a break from reading for whatever reason, life gets busy. I come back to it. It takes me so long, literally like a month, to kind of get back into the groove of it.
Yeah, when I've watched your your books, what would you call them? Like the reading vlogs. That's what what you call them. And when I watch you talk about it, I'm always like, man, he reads fast. And then when you have one where you're like, well, today I didn't really read much of it at all. I'm like, that's me. Yeah, that's me every day.
No, the first couple days, it's all good, and then a whole week will go by, and I'll be like, I haven't updated this thing. I'm sorry. I mean, and life happens.
That's the thing that fascinates me about BookTube, and that's something that I'd love to explore because I only know so much about it, and I know you have, you've permeated yourself in that space.
Yeah.
This fascination that so many people have with what other people are reading, what books are out there and fun to read.
Right.
It's a cool space.
It makes you feel plugged in.
Yeah. And I remember when I first thought about it, I was like, oh, what do I care about, like, what somebody's reading? And then I, like, get into it. I'm like, oh, yeah, they like that book. Maybe I'll go.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I didn't say that I've watched some of your videos on a Sunday morning and then skedaddled over to eBay and bought something I maybe shouldn't have.
Yes, I am a bad influence in that way. I know this because people tell me all the time.
I have bought at least 3-point horror books because you were just looking at the covers. And so that's a good segue. One of my favorite things is the covers. Half of my collection desire is the artwork. These are the exploitation movies of the book world.
Yes. It's like walking into a video store.
Yeah.
It's the same feeling.
And the only difference is a lot of these are for young people as well. Although, I mean, in the 70s and 80s, there were, I mean, I'm sure you've read Paperbacks from Hell.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorites. I've read it like 5 times.
It's incredible, like the amount of the woman looking back and the house with one light on in the background.
Those Gothic paperbacks, yes.
I love that there was like an era of style.
Thousands of them.
Yeah.
Thousands, yes. And they're all the same.
Yeah.
But they're all there.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So, and that's the other thing is, like, when I started collecting these, they were pretty much overall considered just garbage. I mean, not garbage, but trash. They were disposable.
Right.
So I would buy 20, 30 young adult books for $20. Now people are starting to appreciate them. Yeah. Nostalgia has become a major part of life. And I guess that's just part of getting older, is that nostalgia kind of becomes it. Everybody wants to remember when they were kids. Everybody wants to have that thing that you couldn't have when you were a kid. I think that's a big part of it. Is there a book that you've scored as an adult that you always wanted as a kid that you couldn't believe you got, or that you couldn't wait to get once you had cashola in your pocket?
It's actually, I didn't actually buy it, and I did own it when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
When my parents divorced, we moved house. Everything got kind of disrupted. I had this, it's go back to Goosebumps. It was a Goosebumps haunted library. It was a promotional item. And you would get the books and boxes of cereal, and then if you filled out the order form, you would get this little cardboard fold out, and you could put your tiny little Goosebumps books inside of it. There were 3 of them. And I had this when I was a kid, but then it got lost in the move, and I hadn't been able to find it ever since. A friend of mine blessed me with a pristine copy of this thing, and I'd always wanted it again, and now I have it. It goes for like $200 online. So,
crazy.
Yeah, that was my one like holy grail that I didn't think I'd ever get, and now I have it.
Well, I mean, I think that you, at this point in your booktube career, I think you've gotten a lot of holy grails.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've had a lot of luck because I obsessively look for this stuff constantly, like all the time.
Yeah, I'm the same way. My girlfriend likes to call it, I stalk things I like. Like, I just hunt them and wait outside the apartment of, like, a microphone I want to buy until the price is just right or it's just now available. Because I was showing you when you first came into the casa here that I have all these posters for movies that very few people appreciate other than me and apparently you. When you went, oh, my God, a Night of the Scarecrow poster, I was like, homie, you're in the right place. Welcome to your home away from home, nerd. Because I love the things that make me feel cozy. Yeah, I look at these and I'm like, man, I remember being at the video store when I was a kid and seeing box covers to movies that I never got to see at all.
Oh, yeah.
And your brain fills it in.
Yes.
And before, it's the same with a lot of these paperbacks. I would see them and never get to read them. So in a way, you just kind of make up a story in your head of like what that's about, and that's almost even cozier because it's like that's the exact horror story you like because you actually made it up yourself.
You made it up. Yeah, no, I had the same feeling when I would walk into a video store as a kid. My mom hated horror films. I was not allowed to watch. I was allowed to watch Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark. It was about it.
At least there's that. I mean, because those were hugely influential.
That was my thing. Later on, I got into like Universal Monsters because that's tame enough. But I would walk down the horror section and I'd see all of these covers and I'm like, oh my God, I want to rent all of these. No, I wasn't allowed. I got away with like coming up to my mom and being like, here's Return to Oz. Can I rent this? Well, sure. It's Oz, of course. And then getting home and crying my eyes out because I was terrified of the witch without her head. And she was like, okay, so yeah, you definitely can't watch these movies then.
So my mother was bizarrely willing to just let me watch whatever I wanted within a realm of reason.
Totally the opposite.
My mom, I would be at the video store, and as long as I picked something that didn't just look like porn, she'd be like, sure. You know, like I would want to grab like which one of the witchcraft movies, and my mom would be like, are you kidding? Nah.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I would pick up Halloween 4 and she'd be like, yep, go on. Sure. Freddy Krueger. I had Freddy Krueger tapes when I was so young. It was really inappropriate. And my mother's attitude was always like, well, he knows the difference between reality and fantasy, so he'll be fine. I did not know the difference. I was 7. I was a smart enough 7-year-old to convince my mom to let me watch the movies, but not smart enough to not be scarred by them in some ways. So, and also we were like notorious cable stealers. So I had like an obscene amount of access to Cinemax. It all makes sense, but the biggest influence talking about like cozy horror memories was, and this I know was before your time, but are you familiar with Saturday Nightmares?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so it ended in like 94.
Was it like
or something,
USA?
so it was on USA.
Okay, I've heard of this, but I was.
Oh, sure. I mean, 'cause I'm sure you've talked to people who remember that. Well,
or I'll go on a binge on YouTube.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'm
and you'll see the intros and outros.
Right.
Well, my mom and my stepdad and me would all be in the living room, and it would be a Saturday night. I'd be getting tired, and my stepdad, really nice dude, and he would have, he liked to have a few cervezas, and he was from Mexico, and he liked to have a few cervezas. He liked to have a good time, and what he didn't like to do was get up once he was settled in on a Saturday night, because he worked in contracting and he was tired, you know.
Yes.
So we would all be on the couch, and I'd be like crevassed right between them, and I would be like, my eyes would be like whatever, and my mom was like, "We better put him to bed." And he'd be like, "He's falling asleep. Who cares? Let him sleep." And then I would just lay there, eyes not open, watching like Friday the 13th Part 8 all the way through at like 6.
That's great.
And I just remember him always going, "He'll fall asleep. He'll fall asleep. It's fine. He'll fall asleep." I was never going to sleep. I remember how scared I was. The intro was this like cheesy CGI hallway that had like movie scenes and television scenes, because they would show The Hitcher on there. I mean, they would show the Hitchhiker TV series on there.
That's a good one too.
They would show Friday the 13th movies. They would show Poltergeist the series. Yes. They would show all kinds of stuff. And I remember just being scared of just the intro, because it would have this like 80s "Tonight on Saturday Nightmares, a man gets more than he's bargaining for in Creep Show, followed by another episode of The Hitchhiker." And I would I would just be like pretending to be asleep so I could, one eye open, just watch that shit.
Golden Age.
Oh my gosh, it's
so good.
It was so good. But it was like there was such a recklessness with media, and it definitely formed who I was, but I definitely am not saying it's the best parenting advice in the world.
Yeah, I wanted to see Scream, because when I was in kindergarten, when that movie came out, and all my sisters would talk about it, and they tell me what happens in it, and I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. I want to see that. And my mom was like, no. And then I would go to we'd go to Meijer or something. I go to the video section, and I'm just holding the VHS of Scream in my hands, and she's like, no.
Ain't happening, kid. Ain't happening.
And then when I did get old enough to see it, I was like 13 or 14. I'm like, oh my God, this is terrifying. I know why now. Why she told me no.
See, and so for context, although I wasn't in kindergarten when Scream came out, I remember being on a road trip with my mother and my sister going to Alabama and renting Scream to the hotel room, and everybody else going to sleep, and I'm like 9 or something, or 8, and I just sat up and watched Scream, and it looped, because, it was like the old pay-per-view. So I watched the whole thing, and then caught like 45 minutes of it again before I finally fell asleep.
It's one of those movies you want to put back in and watch from the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Well, plus I had free access to it. It was mine. Everybody else was asleep. I had my little can of soda, and let's do it. So, but... so to other cozy things more related to books, God, this is the most dangerous meeting of the nerd minds. So when it comes to Halloween, what's your next pick for a cozy Halloween book to read?
I have a whole bag.
I noticed. I was just going to play coy.
Yeah. Well, going to R.L. Stine yet again. I do have things besides R.L. Stine.
Yeah, but Stine's a classic.
Fear Street. They just did the movies recently. I'm sure a lot of people who didn't read these books probably saw the movies. Yeah, they're good, but the original books are fantastic. And this is not my favorite, but it's fantastic. It takes place at a Halloween party in a Gothic mansion with a cemetery in the front yard. Someone's been murdered. I'm sure you've read it, right?
I have read the Halloween Night, but I've not actually gotten the Halloween Party.
Halloween Night's cool. Halloween Party is better.
Wow.
Love this book. It's very cozy.
That one, I would be shocked if I don't have it in my collection. I'm going to dig that one out.
And if you don't, I probably have a dupe of it somewhere and you can have it.
I will keep that in mind, because you never know what you have to, like, I'm really bad. You have this incredible library, and a macabre library, if you will.
Yes.
And I have just plastic bins full of YA novels, just like everywhere in every storage space.
It's almost more fun because, when you get the itch to read some YA horror, you just dig through your bins. It's like, oh my God, I didn't realize I had this.
Or more likely, I buy them on eBay because you talk about them. And then I'm going through the bins. I go, why'd I buy it? I had it. That happened several times.
Yeah, it happens to me too. And I have them all on shelves, organized and cataloged, and it still happens.
Those shelves they're custom made, right? They had to be.
They are. I will buy them from Walmart or Amazon, and then I will customize them from there. So a little bit of both.
I mean, we're talking floor to ceiling.
Yes.
I mean,
incredible amount. They don't go up to the ceiling when you buy them. I had to build them up because I need that extra space.
Don't go away. Weekly Spooky will be right back. I try not to be too much of a collector, but I have 700 movies. Adorable. It's all of my friends who are actual collectors are just like, oh, bless your heart, but even that, I'm like, man, I just don't have the space. Especially not with my horrible poster addiction, which takes up all of the walls.
Yes.
And I have 45 posters not framed. It's a problem. I have a problem.
No room for shelves. That's one of the hard things is that I can't ever have enough shelves.
Yeah.
Constantly in need of shelves. I just bought 3 bookcases, and I'm like, I guess I have to go back to Target. I got to get another bookcase.
So, and speaking of cozy books, I want to also mention you are an author.
Yes.
And I read your first book, Autumncrow.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. It's a short story compilation, which would appeal very much to the weekly spookies out there. You should check out Autumncrow on Amazon.
Please do.
I think that, they love short fiction, and that's what it is.
Yes.
So definitely check out Autumncrow, but you have the first installment of Autumncrow High.
Yes.
Fresh Hell.
Yes. Which, by the time you're seeing this, is out right now for you to buy. It is kind of inspired by Fear Street, but of course it is a spinoff of my first book, Autumncrow. So Autumncrow takes place in a spooky town where they pretty much celebrate Halloween year-round. They're a little bit obsessed with it. It's a little bit of Foy's here in Ohio.
Oh, yeah, the Foy family up in Fairborn.
Yes.
But on steroids.
Right, yeah, on steroids. It's a broader setting. It's over an entire town. It's nestled in this valley. And, of course, it attracts a lot of tourists. People love to come there and celebrate Halloween. But there's a dark side because there's evil in the soil. And if you come to Autumncrow, you may not leave with your life.
So, and if you want, would you mind giving the audience a taste of what do they have to expect from Autumncrow High Fresh Hell?
This is a young adult series, and like I said, it's very much inspired by Fear Street. So, but instead of having Fear Street, the school is kind of the hub of evil. So each book is going to follow a different character as they make their way through senior year, 1994. And
I didn't realize it was in the 90s.
Yes, it is set. The first book is set in 1993 at the beginning of the school year, and it follows all these teenagers all throughout the year. And it's a question of whether or not they're going to make it to graduation or even prom.
I mean, see, I went to a non-cursed high school, and I still didn't make it to graduation. So
right, I didn't even go to high school myself. I did, but I started homeschooling at 8th grade year of middle school. I was like, no, I've had enough. I can't do this.
Were you bullied?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to survive this. So I guess this is kind of what I pictured high school probably was.
Oh, that's a fun way. That's really cool, though, because that's a fun way to stretch that imagination muscle.
Yeah.
Of just of imagining what high school would be like in an awesome universe instead of the real universe where it's horrible.
It's terrible.
Because, gosh, imagine that. A horror movie book nerd bullied.
Yeah.
What kind of world are we living in?
Right.
Plot
twist.
Where'd you, if you don't mind, where'd you go to school?
I went to the school at Tecumseh Middle School.
Tecumseh, okay. Yeah, I went to West Carroll, which is just right down the road. And I don't really recommend.
Yeah. No, Tecumseh was a horrible experience.
That's pretty rural, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like you have less people, but the jerks are really loud.
Yes.
In places like that. So
it's the worst.
Well, if you ever need, for future Autumncrow High books, if you ever need some heartlessly brutal stories, high school life, I'm happy to share.
Yes.
I've got trauma for days, baby.
Oh, me too, man.
But I'm thrilled that it's finally out. I'll be getting a copy immediately. No need to send one because I want to buy one.
Thank you.
But I mean, I know how, believe me, I know how important it is. Support means everything. So that one little notch to the algorithm, that's on me. I got you.
Thank you.
But I think that it's super cool, and I can't get over the fact that you're a local person. Like, that blows my mind. Yeah, I know. When you rang my doorbell, I was like, holy crap, it really is him. It really is Cameron. He's here now. Well, okay.
Yeah. 20 minutes away.
Freaking crazy. He's petting my dogs. You know? But yeah, make sure you check out Autumncrow High, Fresh Hell. We're not doing the show entirely just to promote it, but it doesn't hurt either.
Yeah,
it's brand new. It's brand new. And the folks listening to this over at Weekly Spooky, folks, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, it's the kind of thing you like if you like that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
I modeled it for people like us.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm all about reading it. I'm going to have to read that and then read Halloween Party.
Yes.
Kind of back to back.
Just a forewarning, though, to anybody who did grow up on Fear Street, this is a lot darker. So I imagine that's probably a good thing to a lot of you.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree. Well, and so I've not written a book. I've published a bunch of books. Right. I work with authors, especially people who I do Weekly Spooky with and stuff like that. Very, very talented folks. And an author named David O'Hanlon and I teamed up to do the Babysitter Massacre books, which are spin-offs of the cinematic universe of Babysitter Massacre in book form. He's back in POG form. But those are literally Fear Street, but with violence, sex, mutilations, the devil. You know, it's just all the things you knew should have been in it, but weren't. So I can appreciate that too. The mentality of like, it's like Fear Street, but it doesn't have to pull the punches.
Right. It's a lot darker. It's a lot more violent. It is still young adult, so don't expect like anything too overtly gruesome. No sex, but I do pull a couple of punches.
You get a couple of whacks in there.
Yes.
So, all right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, which, by the way, just slip the 20 under the table. What else is in your sack of magic cozy Halloweeny?
Oh, let's see. Well, this is actually a newer book, and it is totally a middle grade book. So don't expect anything too dark with this one. But if you like The Haunted Mask in the Goosebumps series, this is part of the Monster Street series. It's called The Halloweeners by J.H. Reynolds. This is the second book in the series, but they're all like Goosebumps. You don't have to read them in any kind of order.
Sure.
This is about a bunch of kids who are trick-or-treating on Halloween. They eat some Halloween candy, and they start to turn into their costumes. So it's basically The Haunted Mask, but it's got all of the cozy Halloween vibes that you want. It's really, really good. And I like the other books in the series, too. Actually, Carnival, which is the third book, is extremely dark for a middle grade book. But this one's very fun and very cute as well, if you like cute.
I mean, I like a little cute in my horror every now and then, but... and I wasn't expecting one so modern. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're basically saving you all the trouble of your reading list. We're helping you. This is a public service. You're welcome. So, before we get into another recommendation, do you have a book that when you first read it, maybe when you reread it as an adult, or because obviously you've reread a lot of them as an adult, that when you read it, you couldn't believe it was a young adult book? You couldn't believe that you had sat and read it when you were like a teen? And in hindsight, you were like, whoa, okay.
It's a good question. There are a couple of Christopher Pike books that I read as a kid.
All of my answers are Christopher Pike.
Where as a kid, like I knew it was a lot, but I didn't realize just how much till I got older. I'm like, wow.
Was it Slumber Party?
A Slumber Party is actually a kind of mild compared to, in my opinion. But like I was reading The Midnight Club, which is a very sad book.
I love The Midnight Club.
Yes, and it's not really horror, but it's so dark. So dark and so sad.
Yeah, when the Netflix miniseries was announced, everybody was like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah. This sounds interesting." And I was like, "Do you know what that book's about?"
Yes,
because I'll tell you what that book is about. It's about terminally ill children.
Yes,
who are terminal.
Yes,
I love that book.
It's so good, and it has so much to say about grief. There's also all kinds of like weird kind of messages in there, and you're not really sure what he's trying to say, which I feel like is the case with a lot of Christopher Pike books. Like some people are like, oh, I didn't like this because it was trying to say this. I'm like, well, I don't know if he's trying to make any kind of point. He's just kind of puts it all in there. It's like, you come up with it.
Well, and he had the benefit of, number one, a pen name, which never hurts, to have that kind of the freedom of a pen name. But number two, just the sheer demand for his work. So he could just write one, and then if he wasn't sure if he did it right, he'd just write another one that was kind of like it, that he could experiment. He could try new things. He could publish all kinds of stories.
Yes.
And just get them out into the world and see what happens. And that's one of the reasons I like these books, too, is they were kind of written to be disposable. But they're not disposable to losers like us. No. We read them again and again.
Yes.
And actually, so my two were Midnight Club and Slumber Party, as far as like I read them again and I was like, whoa. I was reading these when I was 11?
Yes.
Holy crap. I mean, Slumber Party is one of my favorites. I mean, just the there's a part where a girl has to pee on her hands to warm her fingers enough to escape, which I just thought was like not necessarily inherently, wrong or bad, but just like, okay, that's a choice.
Yes, that's a choice that you can make.
But also the ending where the sister, one of the sisters, spoiler, if you haven't read it in 30 years, it's been out, burns alive. The way they described like her face as she's like being engulfed in flames. I'm just sitting there as at that point, like 19 or 20-year-old. And as a 19 or 20-year-old, I'm like, oh, okay then. I mean, woof. And of course, we mentioned The Last Vampire, which, I mean, that's a movie, that's a book about a vampire in a world ravaged by AIDS.
Yes. It's dark stuff.
It's incredibly dark.
And I don't think, it seems like R.L. Stine actually got a lot of the controversy with Goosebumps because he was just a bigger name. I feel like Christopher Pike was a little more underground, and he was able to get away with a lot more without a lot of stink being raised about it.
Well, and he stayed in the YA space too.
Yes.
He did very little for children as to where R.L. Stine went into with Goosebumps, and it's like, this is for little kids. But they were always fun.
Right.
I mean, I was going to say nobody got hurt. No, there were some where people definitely, they got hurt, and it was permanent.
Well, he likes to say that, there's not a lot of harm, there's not a lot of violence, no one actually dies. It's like, well, it's there between the lines, though.
Well, when I was first revisiting young adult books, I actually wanted to do, this was before I realized that there was just no way I could do it. I wanted to have a blog about YA horror books, and this was in 2009, so it would have been really ahead of the time.
Yes.
And I wrote one blog, which was about the first book in the Babysitter Nightmares series.
Oh, okay. I have those. I've not read them yet, though.
I've read the first one, which off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of it, but it was good. But the author has no other credits. And my favorite thing about reviewing that book was I dissected the dedication because it had references to like, thanks to like Lemmy for the good gig. And then it was like the key to, and then it was the author bio at the end. It said like, he believes the key to good life is like coffee, rock and roll, and lots of yab yum and all this stuff. So I looked up yab yum. That's a sex act from the Kama Sutra. Like, this dude, my imagination was like, this is some like drifter guy who just like wrote this book for a paycheck to buy more peyote and gasoline to drive further. Like,
it's kind of weird that got by through the publisher.
I mean, they didn't have Google, so maybe they just punched it into their Encyclopedia Britannica CD-ROM.
They didn't know any better,
and it wasn't there. But so I wrote an article about that one, but then I realized like, oh my God, I'm just such a slow reader, and if I make myself have to do this, it won't be fun, But I always wanted to talk about those more, and that was a really fun one, and I wanted the ones that nobody remembered.
And there's a lot of them too.
Yeah, no,
the more you dig, the more you turn up.
Oh yeah, and like I remember. When I discovered Nightmare Hall, what a fun series with the book where you open it and you get a bigger picture.
You step back,
Yeah. The front cover has a hole in it. So you see like a framed image, and then when you open it, you get the whole image.
I really wanted to do that for Autumncrow High, but there's just no way to do it self-publishing.
No. I mean, not without a great deal of expense.
Yes.
And yeah, that's the same thing with like doing foil and foil covers and stuff. You're going to spend a lot of money.
Back in the day, it was on every book.
Well, but they were always printing like 5,000 of them.
Yeah.
And when you're printing like, or 20,000 or 30,000 or 100,000, and when you're printing that many, the cost difference is just, they deplete and deplete and deplete. When I worked in the DVD business in 2005, 2006, we would make 10 to 20 to 30,000 DVDs at a time. So if it was a double disc set, it was like 3 cents additional because we were making so many already. It just didn't matter.
I've heard that about steelbooks too. You know, they're so expensive, but I've heard that they're like super cheap to produce. Well, yeah, I still go out and get each one that comes out.
Yeah, I just got the Tigers Are Not Afraid steelbook. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that movie, but I've heard about it. It looks very good.
Excellent. It will shatter your heart into 1,000
That's
little
why
pieces.
I want to see it.
No,
I want to be heartbroken. I want that.
Let it break your heart. I loved it. But I'll mention that for everybody. That's a good Halloween one that's not even a horror movie, really. But Tigers Are Not Afraid. It's about cartel orphans. People who are orphaned because their families are killed by the cartel in little Mexican villages. And you follow this young girl who avoids those kids because they're unwashed. You know, they might steal sometimes to survive. And then one day she comes home and her parents are gone because the cartel, something happened. She didn't know about it. And now she has to go to those kids and be like, can I sleep near where you camp? Because I have nothing anymore, just like you guys. But it becomes cartel versus child folklore.
Wow.
And that's where it gets really special, and that's why I'm recommending it. But
I got to see it.
I
didn't realize there was a steelbook of it, though, so maybe I'll pick that up.
Somebody sent it to me for my birthday.
Awesome.
And I was, not somebody, it was my buddy Andrew. And he put happy birthday, and he was like, though you won't be happy if you watch this on your birthday. And I was like, you don't tell me when I'll be happy, gringo. Ay. But okay, so... What else you got in that magic sack of Halloween codes?
Oh, let's see. I put all this in here yesterday, so I don't even remember.
Oh, that's even more exciting.
Oh, here we go. This is a good one. So this is actually new as well. Newer. If you guys end up reading Autumncrow and you like this is pretty much the same. And it didn't mean for that to happen. This came out at the same time as Autumncrow. That this is Greetings from Moon Hill by Anthony J. Rapino, and it is short stories set in a town called Moon Hill, where it's basically Halloween all the time.
All right. What kind of joint?
Lots of cool illustrations and designs and things inside. The author sent this to me for review, and when I read the synopsis, I was like, dude, by the way, I'm literally about to release a book called Autumncrow. It has pretty much the same plot. Don't think I stole your book, because I've not even seen it in person yet. He was like, no, it's okay. But he's been a big supporter of mine, too. Really good book. Really, really good Halloween horror. Horror.
It's called Greetings from Moon Hill.
Greetings from Moon Hill, and it's cozy, but it does have lots of gruesome stuff in here as well. So
it's a thick one. It's like a 6x9.
Yes,
and it's
loaded.
It's a thick book, so that is like a solid amount of Halloween reading.
Yeah, but it could take you all a month if you just wanted to read little bits at a time.
Oh, so how many words, give or take, is Fresh Hell?
It is 73,000, so
that's pretty thick.
It's a novel.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
When I first set out to write it, I thought it was going to be more like Fear Street's, around 40,000 words. It just kept going and going and going.
And we tried to keep the babysitter books around about that 30 to 40,000 word space.
It's a good range, yeah.
Well, especially for, stuff that's trying to be like Fear Street or whatever. Yeah. It's a nice range, and, it's just thick enough if you make it an 8 by whatever. I'm talking about the details of publishing, but it's just thick enough, But, wow, okay, it's a thick boy. No wonder. It took a hot minute to put it together. I know that this has been absolute passion for you.
Yes.
So I'm trying not to. It's so weird to nerd out. I watch this guy just talk about his favorite books every week or so, and I love it.
Thank you.
But then when you talk about movies, it's like you're just like, and I got this box of movies from Vinegar Syndrome. You start opening them, I'm like, got it.
Yep.
Got it.
There's nothing new to learn.
Gonna need that. Yeah, got it. Weekly Spooky will be right back after these quick messages. I worked very briefly in film restoration.
Oh, wow.
So I oversaw some film scans and stuff. And so I'm always fascinated to see the newest remaster.
Me too.
And
I'm
see
a
what they're
big,
doing.
huge nerd for that kind of stuff. So that's very cool.
You just watched Killer Laugh. Or was it Killer Laugh?
Evil Laugh.
Evil Laugh.
Yes.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. I thought it feels more like a comedy than it does a horror, but I thought it was very funny.
My best advice, watch the making of if you haven't already.
I did, and it's great.
It makes you love the movie even more.
Yes.
I bought an original one sheet off of eBay of that, which is just
awesome.
laying around in the pile of them where there's nowhere to put them.
It's a great poster.
When I bought it, I was looking at it, and it was signed by the producer. And I was like, whoa, signed by the producer? That's who was selling it on eBay.
Of course.
So I was like, well, then it would make sense that it would be signed. So I just, side note, when you mentioned that on your show, I was like, I loved, that was one of those I was not expecting to love so much.
It was very, very funny. There were times where I'm cracking up, not because, it's like, it's cheesy. It's literally funny.
Yes.
It's got really great comedic timing. I loved it. And like you said, the documentary and just the things that they had to do to get the film made and the hoops they had to jump through.
Well, it's endearing when you realize that these were all actors who wanted to do something they would all enjoy doing. So they pulled their money together to pay for everybody's food and for the film stock. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, before I thought this movie was okay, but now I'm rooting for these people. Even though it was 1988 or whatever, and I was 2 years old when they did it, I'm doing my part now.
Yes.
So, man, there's so much horror media to enjoy.
So much. I get overwhelmed with it all.
Of course you do, dude. I mean, are you kidding? I can't imagine. I mean, just the sheer amount of stuff sent to you, I'm sure is incredible.
Yeah,
and a blessing and a curse, because it's like, it's amazing. And then you're like, I got to read this. Yes. And I live your favorite thing is now a job every day. And there are easier days and there are harder days. So,
well, yeah, like you were saying, things are sent to me, which is awesome, and I'm so grateful. But after, a certain point, it starts to just pile up, and I'm like, I can't read all of this. I'm going to eventually, but it's going to take me years.
Well, you're very transparent about the fact that,
I try to be.
I'm pretty packed on whatever, so if you need this in a rush, don't send it to me.
Yeah, don't. And a lot of times people still do. Because they want to see it in the library, which is very cool.
Yeah, well, and they want somebody who will appreciate it to inevitably appreciate it.
Yes.
And that makes sense.
Which I do. Like, even when I'm not reading the books, I still want to, go and look at them as if I'm, in a video store.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first thing I did when we got in touch was I sent you some Babysitter Massacre books.
Yes.
Because those covers are dope.
Yes.
And I don't know if I told you, the artist on those, I can't name him, but, long story, but he did many of the artwork on Vinegar Syndrome
oh, really?
movies. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that explains it then.
I'll tell you what they are off the air. So
I'm looking forward to it.
He has a professional career, so the really sleazy stuff, he has to use a fake name. So, and mine stuff, damn right, is the sleazier stuff. So,
right.
So what else is in this magic bag?
Oh,
I'm digging through yours to see if you have any of the ones I would put. And if you don't, then I'll bring up mine.
Let's see, what do we got? Oh, here we go. It's another modern book. I have a lot of modern books in here.
And that's awesome, yeah.
Because, vintage stuff, there's not a whole lot of, Halloween-themed books. It's just horror.
Yeah.
But lately, all of us weirdos have come together and made a lot of really cool Halloween books. So this is another anthology. It's a collection of stories from a bunch of different authors, so you get a little taste of a bunch. I actually originally sent a story to this, hoping to get published in it, and they turned me down. But I'm still giving them a shout out because it's a great book.
You're a mensch and a class act.
Doorbells at Dusk, really, really good. Just a celebration of Halloween. All kinds of different things in here. There's some melancholy. There's a lot of gruesome horror. Some really dark stuff. Funny. It's a nice mix.
And it's another thick one, too, so that'll get you through the season.
Yeah, there's a lot to read. It's a trick-or-treat bag.
I love that. Yeah, well, and kudos to you for being not petty, because boy, is it easy to be petty.
I'm in circles with a lot of different authors and editors, and I'm always sending my stories out, and sometimes it just doesn't fit, which is fine.
Yeah. So, and I want to also mention, you've done a lot of what are called horror tube anthologies. I noticed those when I followed your author thing on Amazon.
Yes.
So do you want to mention any of those that stand out
Yes.
that would be worth bringing up?
I have a story in their book called Served Cold, which is like a winter-themed anthology.
I bought that one.
Did
I
you?
have that one, yeah.
It's got a story called Karakonkolos that I wrote. It's actually about it's a Christmas cryptid. It might be a little bit of a spoiler because it's not totally centered around that until you kind of get to the end. But anyways, I had a lot of fun writing that story. It's another one that's a little darker. And then at the end of the rope was in local haunts, which was all of the authors could model their story after a local haunt or a local legend of some kind. So at the end of the rope is about the one-eyed dog, which lives in a forest in Autumncrow. These are both Autumncrow stories.
Of course, yeah.
But it's actually an urban legend that I accidentally started at my elementary school, that there was a one-eyed dog that haunted the woods because there were all these dog houses, like dilapidated dog houses in the woods bordering my elementary school. And kids are like, why are those dog houses there? And I'm like, I'll tell you. It's because there's a one-eyed dog that haunts these woods. And from then on, kids started seeing it in the woods. They'd come into class. They'd be like, oh, my God, I saw the one-eyed dog in the woods. And the teacher's like, what are you guys talking about? And I'm just sitting in the back of the room like.
The teacher's just like, is there a gas leak in here? What are these kids talking about?
And then I got out of elementary school, went into middle school, totally different school. And my sister would come home. She'd be like, I saw the one-eyed dog. I'm like, no, you didn't, because I invented that. That's mine. She was like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did.
See, that's where you and I differ, because I'd be like, if you really saw him, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
No one ever survives. So when I was growing up, did you have a lot of ghost stories growing up that were like family tradition or anything like that?
I guess I was the one, though, who told the stories.
Yeah.
I would read like scary stories to tell in the dark or Haunted Ohio.
Yeah.
And
those
I
were
would
published in Beaver Creek.
Yes. Yeah. Chris Woodyard, I've not met her before, but she was like my idol growing up. I loved those books so much. So if she happens to be watching this, please reach out to me because I want to meet you.
Shoot, if you're watching this, reach out to me too.
Yes.
Because I want to talk to you too.
Yeah.
I just recently bought all of them. Like just
so
one by one, I
good.
just found them all.
Yes.
And every single one, it was like published by, I forget the name of the company they went by, but then it said, Beaver Creek, Ohio. I was like, that's even closer to me than where you live.
Yes. Yeah, they're great books. So I would read those. And it's, just local haunted houses and buildings. There's like a thing in there about Sinclair Community College. So I would read those and I'd be like, oh, this ghost story about Sinclair, that apparently their theater is haunted. Everyone's
You'd
like, what?
reinterpret them to people?
Yes.
Oh, you're such a stinker.
I was a kid.
How, you're like, I was a kid. I was 24.
Yes.
See, when I was growing up, first of all, my mother's from Kentucky. She's actually born in Hazard, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
You can't make that up, kids. And she would tell me her favorite ghost story growing up, which was Golden Arm. Have you ever heard the woman with the golden arm or Golden Arm? It was actually made famous by what's his name? Mark Twain.
Oh, okay.
He told the version that an uncle, like not a real uncle, this is so terrible because it's like, talk about a world apart, a slave uncle. So it was somebody that he considered an uncle, but they were a slave of sorts. And it was this ghost story about a woman who, I'll paraphrase it because it's kind of a long story, but basically this woman got injured in a small town by a rich person, like got run over by a horse or something, and it smashed her arm. So the rich person felt so terrible about it. He was like, I want to make concessions. So not only will I get you a new arm, but it's going to be made of gold. And I'm just going to, when you get older, I'm going to give you an arm that, fits. And it's going to be made of pure gold because I'm so sorry. Like I can never actually give you your arm back. So that's a pretty wild contrition story.
Yes.
It's like, I'll give you an arm made of gold. But on top of that, she then gets married and is living kind of a normal life. But the way my mother told it, eventually the farm falls on hard times and her husband comes to her and is like, if we sold your golden arm, we could buy oxen and cows and we could get the farm going again. And she's like, absolutely not. I'm not selling my golden arm. And he's like, okay, fine. So it doesn't go full EC Comics. He doesn't kill her or anything. But the next summer she falls ill which of course was a thing in the 1850 or whatever.
Yeah.
When it started, like, she fell ill and passed away. And he debated and debated and debated. And finally, in the version I heard, he dug her up and stole her golden arm and sold it a town over. Then at night, as he's trying to go to sleep, he hears,
give me back my arm.
So the way it starts is, it starts as, where's my golden arm? Where's my golden arm? And the next day, he's like accusatory. He thinks that like the jeweler he sold it to, who promised he wouldn't tell anybody, had like told somebody, and it was her family trying to get revenge, or it was the guy who paid for the arm trying to get revenge, or whatever it was. Then he keeps like trying to find who's doing it, and eventually it changes to, who stole my golden arm?
No. She's on to you, bro.
So then he sees this like figure off in the distance that looks like his wife in the clothes she was buried in, saying, who stole my golden arm? And the hook of the story is Twain would tell this story in a room full of adults with one candle lit. And who stole my golden arm? Was it you? And they would all jump. Which just... What is more joyful than that adults used to sit in a room with other adults and be spooked by a guy reading in front of a candle?
Now, this is a lot like the Big Toe from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yes.
I think it's been translated probably many different times.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There was another one in Scary Stories 3, I think, where it's the coins on her eyes.
Yeah.
Somebody steals their coins.
Stealing from the dead is a very classic trope.
Don't do it.
I wouldn't recommend it.
But I would bring my Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books with me to campouts. Like I went camping when I was in middle school. So we're all sitting in a circle in the middle of the cabin, and I'm reading from it. And I did the same thing where I'm like, you have it. And everybody about pissed themselves. It was great.
I once told that on a first date. Scared that poor woman so bad.
Oh, no.
We only dated for 2 years after that. So...
Kind of reminds me of that, I think it's from Ace Ventura, where Jim Carrey's talking about the dream he
dog.
had about the dog.
The dog biting.
It's
It's perfection.
I took that as a kid, and I did it to everybody I knew. It scared everybody. It was great.
The version I always did was you drive out to like a middle of nowhere road.
Crybaby Bridge.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, around here you would go out to Farmersville because there's just like a lot of nothing out there. And you would say like, oh, on this road, there's known to be a ghost car and blah, 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 blah. Yes. And you just wait until a car passes, which could take 20, 30, 40 minutes.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, when the car comes by, you're like, if you look right at it, when the car passes, you'll see a skull driving it, a skeleton driving it. And then when the car passes, right as it passes, you just go, ah! You just scream in their ear.
Or you could have your buddy come driving along in a skull mask. That would be
bold of you to think I had friends when I was that young. I clearly didn't, based on what I would do to them. But
oh goodness,
the most formative scary story for me is one that none of my friends, for the most part, have in common, which is La Llorona. I did not grow up with the boogeyman. I grew up with La Llorona. And La Llorona scared me so bad that I would sit in bed debating peeing myself instead of risking getting up and going to the bathroom. And my favorite was that my stepdad, I mean, he was 100% Mexican. So, I would be like, La Llorona's not real. And he'd be like, of course she is.
Don't say that.
Yeah. My favorite part about his telling of La Llorona is he would be like, and if she finds you, she'll take you to the stream like the one behind our apartment. And she'll drown you like her little boys. It took me years to realize there's no stream behind our apartment either. Like, he was just screwing with me.
Oh my gosh. That's great.
But now whenever friends are like, my daughter's this way or that way, I'm like, do you want me to go tell her La Llorona and get her to straighten up? Because I will. I'll leave her scared. Forever scared.
Did you watch Curse of the Crying Woman that's in the Mexico Macabre box set?
Oh, no. I haven't had a chance to.
It is fantastic. Just like the perfect gothic horror film. It feels very much to me like a Universal monster movie, but instead you've got La Llorona.
Oh, my God. I love it.
It's really good.
I still am afraid of La Llorona. Like, part of me is still like, maybe she'll get me, though.
It's one of those legends it feels so real.
Well, when you're told it almost every night before bed.
Yeah, it is basically real.
It is. Yeah, you're living it. Yeah, it was his version, which I found out when I researched it later, is not written down anywhere. His was like that you hear the wind, and then it becomes a song, a beautiful song. But then when you get closer, it's not singing; it's weeping. Like it's like he had this whole thing that I've never seen anywhere else report it like that.
It's very chilling.
I mean, he was born in Mexico, and his parents brought him to California. And of course, like anybody, he's in Dayton Air Force, so that's how he ends up in Dayton. So, but my gosh, like I've been sharing that a lot on Weekly Spooky, because whenever we talk about like the things that give us those scary chills, I'm always like, well, that's La Llorona. La Llorona is everything fear based to me. And somebody asked me, because I don't write a ton of stories on Weekly Spooky. I've written 2 out of 209 stories, so I don't write a lot of them. But somebody said, like, you should write a La Llorona story. And I was like, I'm not going to sit up at night writing about La Llorona. Are you crazy? Like,
that's how some of the scariest stories are born, though, because a lot of my stories, if I'm writing something scary, which I don't always write scary horror, but when I am...
Sometimes you write the fun horror?
Yeah, I like fun and cozy. But when I am writing something scary, I don't really get scared, so I have to turn off all the lights. I have to light a candle. I have to play some spooky sounds or something. One story in particular, when I lived with my dad, this was years ago, he lived across the street from a cornfield. So I was like, you know what? They were out somewhere. I don't know. It was late. I was like, I'm going to go to the front deck, and it's dark outside. I'm not going to turn on the patio light. I'm going to write this story across the street from this cornfield. So I'm sitting out there, and damn it, I was getting myself creeped out. And it didn't take very much. And I feel like it did influence the writing a little bit.
I did something similar when I did my first Scary Stories readings before I had the podcast. I got tired of doing them just into a microphone with some scary music. So I took a portable recorder and went to that cemetery right over there. Like you saw it when you came in. I'm sure it's not big, not a huge cemetery, but at night it's big enough.
Yes.
And I gave myself the creeps reading a story. Like I had my phone in one hand to read the story, and then I had my recorder in the other hand. And I'm just sitting there. I'm just sitting there reading it out loud. And it was a story about a graveyard. And by the end of it, I was like, okay, time to skedaddle home.
It's an immersive experience.
But I'm not scared. It's not that I was scared. It was just cold out. It was just cold. I just want to warm up. I just need some cocoa and some blankets and to be held and be told that it's okay. Nothing crazy.
Mommy.
Grown man, But
I don't know if you've ever been in Browse a While Books in Tip City.
No.
It is a really great store. There's lots of great vintage horror in the basement, which is a very creepy basement. It is considered a haunted bookstore. They've had all kinds.
You said a Roundabout Books?
Yes. No, I meant to say Browse a While.
Oh, Browse a While. No, I just thought for a second, because it's the only store I know near Tip.
Yes.
That's why I thought you might have
said. Yes, then there's a Roundabout Books, which is very, very close. And they have very similar names. It's easy to get them mixed up, too.
That's why I was like, I want to make sure, because I've been to a Roundabout Books.
Browse a While is in Tip. And they have all kinds of ghost stories. They've had ghost hunters come there and investigate. So I've gone there in my book shopping vlogs to go down in the basement to look for horror books. And I'm like, sometimes it's fine. It's cool. Don't feel weird. But there's one video in particular where I'm down there for 5 minutes. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I got to go upstairs because I just had these chills all over me.
Peace out a little bit.
It's like, I don't even know if all these stories are real or not, but when you're down there alone in this creepy basement, and you feel like eyes are on you, which they probably have security cameras, that's probably why, but it's enough. It's not worth it. I'm going to leave.
Well, and being afraid in those ways doesn't have to be logical. Like, I am not a religious person, but when I watch The Exorcist, I become Catholic.
Yes.
Just long enough for the film to run its course, I become mortified of the devil for that movie because it's so well done and it pulls you into that world that's so interesting. So
yeah, I feel that.
But I think that's where at the end of the day where a lot of my love of this like short horror fiction stuff comes from is just like being terrorized by my mother and my stepdad with their two really scary stories that I would beg my mother to tell me Golden Arm again and again. Mainly because unlike La Llorona, the woman with the golden arm wasn't going to get me next. That wasn't a part of
She just wanted her arm, man. She just wanted her arm.
Yeah.
You don't have her arm.
What have you heard? So, So what's next in the Sacco mystery?
Let's see. Here's a good one.
The Chicano's helping you.
Yeah. Good boy.
You're not safe yet. Weekly Spooky. We'll be right back.
This one it's not vintage, but it actually is a little bit older. This came out in 2006.
Okay.
Which, I mean, we might not want to think is old, but...
No, I would rather not.
It's been a while. This is Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge. Now, there is another version of this. This is like the fancy limited edition. But you can get the regular paperback in Barnes & Noble, which has... You probably have seen the cover. It's got like a pumpkin head dude on the cover. But anyway, this takes place on Halloween night. You've got this small town. I think his name is the Pumpkin Man or something. And all of these young boys between the ages of like 8 and 18 have to go out on Halloween night and try to find the Pumpkin Man and kill him. It's almost like a lottery by Shirley Jackson kind of situation. But there's something much, much darker going on involving the Pumpkin Man. I don't want to spoil it, but it was a really good twist. Now, this is a lot more literary. So if you like Ray Bradbury's like The Halloween Tree, which is also a great book, this is like the adult version of that, and it's so good.
The Dark Harvest.
Yes.
So, and man, I'm fascinated. I love that you were like the crypt keeper of the folklore to your friends and family.
Yes.
Did you ever scare someone so bad that you felt guilty?
Now, I have a habit of... I am a little bit of a prankster.
Uh-oh.
And like I said, I grew up with lots of siblings. So I spent most of my childhood hiding under beds, hiding in cabinets, waiting for hours for somebody to come along so I could reach out and grab them. So I've got all kinds of stories, and so do my siblings. But they often tell me, you know what? I'm not afraid of anything anymore because of you. You desensitized me.
Well, that's a statement, you know?
And now if I try to scare any of my siblings, they're like, Cameron, I know you're here. I'm like, damn it.
Just imagine how often they say that when you're not there.
Right. They probably do.
It's just a mechanism in their brain is to walk into a room and go, Cameron, I know you're here.
Yes.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3. Okay, I guess he's not.
I think the only time I felt bad was when I was very, very young, and my sister was going to bed, and I had snuck into her room, and I hid under her desk, which was at the end of her bed. So her desk there was this little slit between the bottom of her bed and the top of the bottom of the desk, and I was hiding under there, and I'm looking through. So she had turned off the lights, and she's watching TV, and she looks down at me, and she sees my eyes peering out at her, and she screamed. And my mom came in, and my stepdad, and I got in so much trouble. I hadn't really gotten in trouble before. Then I felt bad.
You felt bad because you were in trouble.
Yes.
It's not because of any morality.
Yes.
It was just like you were busted.
I was busted. Yeah. I mean, I've never scared anybody to the point of their hair turning white, so.
See, and here I was about to start respecting you, and then you tell me that. See, I could not play pranks on my sister because she'd just beat the crap out of me. She was much older.
Yes.
In fact, my entire childhood was like a constant mantra of like, you better stop that because one day he's going to keep growing when you've stopped. You know, because my sister turned out to be like a 5'4", 110-pound girl, and then I turned into like a 5'8", 200-pound 16-year-old, and she's like, "Okay, I guess I can't bully you anymore." I'm like, "Yeah, you can't."
Yeah, my siblings they didn't pound me into the earth. Thankfully,
but maybe they should have.
Yeah, I gave them a lot of opportunities to do that. I was a little bit mischievous. And I still am in some ways, but I feel like I've gotten better, and I channel that into my writing instead.
Yeah, I'm a unrelenting and unrepentant prankster.
Yes.
My favorite thing about having a relationship is to have someone to play jokes on. I once had a girlfriend when I lived in New Jersey tell me, you know, you're not supposed to just play pranks on your girlfriend every day, right? And I was just like, huh? What is that? What do you mean? I know what those words mean, but not in that order. Mm-hmm. So I was the worst. I loved hiding in closets and just jumping out.
Oh man, I've spent hours hiding under beds just waiting. I'm like, somebody's got to come along eventually, and then I throw myself out.
That level of patience is what truly makes you damaged as a human being. Yes. God. So what else is in that magic bag? I don't even know how much is in there, but it seemed like it was pretty full.
Yeah, it's pretty full. What else do we got here? Oh, this is a good one. Another newer book, but this is actually published by Kensington, who used to do Zebra.
Oh, okay.
The old Zebra books. So they're still publishing. This is called Red Harvest, Patrick C. Green. If you like trashy horror, this has a lot of that, lots of gore. But it also takes place in a small town on Halloween, so it does have the cozy, the leaves in the street and needing to go down the street to get a coffee because it's so chilly. But this also has tons of gore and violence, and it's just a crazy bonkers ride, especially toward the end. Now, this is the first book in a trilogy. I've not read books 2 and 3, but this was a really strong start. If I recommend any of them, I think this one's one to grab.
Red Harvest.
Red Harvest.
Okay. No, this is fun. This was like my thought was like, we'll just sit down and talk about Halloween-y books. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of one of my favorite kind of Halloween-y books. I mean, I always liked Halloween Night, the R.L. Stine one. Especially if we're talking about specifically Halloween. But I also really like the Silent Night books, the Fear Street Silent Night books. Those are super fun.
Yeah, those were some of my favorite Fear Street books.
I think it was it number 2 that just has all the mannequin heads with Santa?
3.
Oh, that's 3. Mm-hmm. That was 3. That's such a eye-catching cover box, or cover box. See, I'm thinking movies.
Yeah.
But book cover, it's just all these mannequin heads with Santa hats and this girl in the middle.
Yeah, it's very, very creepy, and it's one of my favorite Fear Street covers.
Oh, it's chef's kiss.
Yes.
So that's a favorite cozy one of mine that I always dive into at least one of them at Christmas time. Don't always finish them, but that's okay. I watched, was it Ski Week or read? See, I'm thinking movies. I read Ski Weekend.
Yes.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, that one was great. Had a lot of good twists and turns.
Yeah, that was such a whodunit. You just kept thinking like, well, it's obviously these people there. Nope. Okay, no. Well, then it's these people. Nope. Of course, it'll never top Beach House, where there's friggin' time travel.
Spoiler. But yeah, there's time travel, which came kind of out of nowhere, but you go back and read it, and then it kind of starts to make sense. But it's also just so weird.
And if you want a version of Beach House that's not quite as weird, just read Beach Party, which was written like right around the same time by those were Stines.
Yeah, those are both Stine. I've actually not read that one.
Really?
But I read Beach House, and I was like, is this the same as Beach?
It's
Beach
much
House?
more subdued and more what you would expect, and it's a lot shorter too.
Yes,
because Beach House was pretty lengthy.
Yeah,
and all I remembered was I reread that as an adult. And as I was reading all these young adult books, I thought it was funny that it was like, leave it to Stine to out and out kill someone. Because there's an out and out murder in it.
Yes.
Because I was reading all these young adult books, especially the Babysitter Nightmares and stuff, which are not that known and were not that successful. And I'm reading those, and it's always the thing where it's like somebody dies, and then it's like, well, they were unconscious, and now we're in the hospital with them. They did that a lot. And I get it. It's for younger kids. You don't want murder and death and all this, or there's a bloody box and it turns out that it was paint Stine was really good at weaving no, it was a practical joke, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to make you think somebody was dead.
Lots of cop-outs.
Yeah, and I get that the idea is that if somebody played a joke on you with fake blood, it's like they had no idea there was an actual murderer out there. So, whoopsie doodle, I was just having some teenage fun. I had no idea. But yeah, they're cop-outs, yeah.
Yes. But I love them. I think that's part of what makes them so cozy and predictable. Because as soon as something starts to happen, it's like, this isn't the real one yet.
That's why when I read Beach House, they kept describing that she had an O-shaped mouth.
Yeah.
She was pale with her mouth looking like a permanent O of a scream. And I'm just sitting and reading it, I'm like, leave it to Stine. Just a corpse.
Yep.
Just a dead girl. Period. But what I'll always remember the most from that book is the one character who liked to dip her French fries in the bottle of ketchup.
Okay.
That was just one thing that never went out of my mind, was that she liked to take a full bottle of ketchup and dip her fries one at a time.
Let's just hope she's not a double dipper.
Oh. I imagine she just brings her own bottle of ketchup everywhere, because I can't imagine that would be, I think that'd be frowned upon even at Bennigan's.
Yeah.
Even there.
I'm sure she does. I've been to an IHOP once, and someone had their very own bag of flour, and I never forgot it. I don't know why.
Bag of flour?
Yeah, it's stuck in my mind so much that I'm mentioning it right now.
I would remember that too.
I'm like, do they have their own bag of flour? It wasn't even like the bag you'd buy in a store. It was a Ziploc bag.
Oh, that's not flour, homie.
No. It was flour. I swear to God. They were pouring it on their pancakes. I'm like, I don't understand, but okay.
I think that might have been powdered sugar then.
Maybe.
Or better yet, cocaine. I mean, some people need a little zip pick me up. It's like, I don't drink coffee. I just sprinkle cocaine on my
I
IHOP.
don't know. It definitely stuck in my mind.
I would never forget that. That is truly bizarre.
It's pretty weird.
So, what else you got in that magic sack?
Oh, let's see. I'm getting close to the bottom here. Let's do some nonfiction.
Ooh, okay.
Have you ever been to Salem?
I have not.
Me either, but I don't have to because I've read this book.
Okay.
This is called A Season with the Witch, The Magic and Mayhem of Halloween in Salem, Massachusetts. So this is basically a travel guide, but it's a lot more fun because it's telling you not just the history of Salem, but like all the cool stuff you can do. Like if you get there, it's really overwhelming, apparently. But there's all kinds of like cool, like haunted houses, really weird things that you can do. This just basically, he lived there for the Halloween season and wrote all about it to the point where I read this and I felt like I was there.
Yeah.
So eventually when I do go, which I would love to one of these days, this is like the best starting place. It's so much fun. So much fun.
Well, I mean, and for it to be like almost like a travel guide, but it's very thick. I mean, it's covering a lot.
It is, but it actually goes really, really quick. I'm not like much of a nonfiction reader, but this just had me totally invested. So I loved it.
See, and that's one thing about me. You give me a nonfiction book if I'm vaguely interested, and I cannot stop reading them. I don't know why. That's just like the way my brain is.
Yeah.
But fiction, I have to really invest myself, or I fall out really quickly, I guess. I don't know why that is, but like, yeah, you give me the most boring book about Roger Corman, I will read it 8 times in one day.
Well, we're talking about Paperbacks from Hell. Like I read it and I started back from the beginning and read it again. And then I was like, okay, well now I need to listen to the audiobook. So then I listened to that. I'm like, well now I want to see the pictures again. So I read it again.
I read it and then listen to the audiobook afterwards.
It's a great audiobook.
It is. It's phenomenal. And I loved the when they talked about why haunted houses caught on, that it was because everybody was heading to the suburbs to buy houses.
Yep.
And after I bought a house about 11 months ago. And it's scary.
Yeah.
Like about a month ago, there was just a wet spot on my carpet. And I was like,
oh no.
No!
Yes.
Is my foundation cracked? You know, and then I was like, is this going to end my life?
That's the real horror of house buying.
No, when I read a horror story, I'm like, I hope it's a ghost and not the foundation. God, do you have any idea how much a foundation will cost?
Yeah.
Like, the Catholic Church won't send somebody to fix your foundation, man.
Yes.
They won't do it. I asked.
Yes.
So, but I love the idea that there's like this sense that the anxiety of home buying, which is very real and lots of people experience it, is what kind of jump-started the world of haunted house books.
The real life horrors, yes.
Horrors beyond all human comprehension. Yeah. Those 2 words you're terrified of, well, not 2 words, but multiple words. It's just the inspector didn't catch this.
Yes.
We're sorry, Mr. Kuto. It's the plumbing.
Oh, no.
No, I'm too scared to sleep tonight. Being in your 30s and loving horror.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, okay, decapitate all the people you want, but like, I can't handle the plumbing's bad.
I'll take a ghost.
I'll take a ghost any day of the week. Man, so have you, as an adult, has anything scared you so bad that you couldn't believe how scared you were? Because I am a giant scaredy cat. People assume that because I watch horror movies all day long and I make a lot of horror movies and I publish horror stories that I am like desensitized, and nothing could be further from the truth. I am a little princess and I get scared. That's why I love it though, because I do react by being scared. I don't go, that was kind of scary. Like I get really scared. Like I was watching this movie on Netflix. Did you see The Last Shift?
No.
Oh man, it's about a woman who just joined the police force, and it's the last night the old precinct is open before they close it and officially open the new precinct.
And it's haunted.
It's haunted by, like, the worst ghosts there are. Like, ghosts of violent criminals who want revenge against police. And it's very scary. I made the mistake of falling asleep during it. I was just tired. And I woke up right as a jump scare happened. And I just, like, sat up on my couch and I was like, I'm just going to turn on every light in the house.
Do you ever record yourself watching horror films? That could be very funny. For the rest of us.
For the others. For the not you. For the not you. No, I do occasionally record myself playing horror video games.
Oh, there you go. That'll be fun.
I am notorious for being like, this game is too scary. I'm going to make my girlfriend play it while I watch. And she's tough as nails. So she's just like, whatever. I'm not afraid of ghosts. And I'm like, ah.
Well, you see, I can handle a lot of horror films, and it takes a lot for me to get scared, but horror video games are completely different because it puts you right in there, the point where I'm like, I can't do this. And I throw it at the nearest person. I'm like, you do it. You do it. I can't. I just can't.
Have you ever played a horror VR game?
No, and I don't think I could.
You can't escape it.
I don't think I could.
I played Don't Knock Twice, and this, like, demon baby crawls across the wall, and you literally turn away from it and realize you're just going to see more of the room, pal. It's sometime when you really feel brave, you hit me up and be like, hey, could I play with your PSVR? Like, can I come by and, like, you hook me up? I will let you be the most terrified you've ever been in your life.
Whenever I play horror video games, not VR, I'm just like inching. Every step is just an inch. So, is there anything there? Is anything going to jump out? No. I can't even imagine. I would be a nervous wreck. I'd probably end up smashing a TV or something, running into something.
I definitely recommend if you play horror VR games, be seated.
Yes.
Because you will definitely, at the very least, you'll fall over. Actually, you might fall over even if it's not a horror VR game, honestly. I play some, like, shooting VR games, and it's so freakishly real. Like, you're just like, da, 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 da. Like, it like, if somebody jumped out of your side, you'd be like, da, 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 da. Like, so, yeah, I try to stay in a chair.
Yeah.
That way my ass is already planted. It doesn't get replanted.
Yes.
But,
I've watched videos of people just, like, full out running into a wall or smashing a TV.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, man, I can't imagine if I were watching or playing a horror VR game, what I would do.
Have you played, like, Until Dawn or The Quarry?
No.
Those are, like, have you heard about them?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I've heard of Until Dawn. I've not heard of The Quarry.
Well, it's the newest one from those people. It's it's like got David Arquette and Lynn Shay and a bunch. It's like their big budget, newest.
See, that sounds awesome to me, but I'm also scared.
Dude, I am too. I made my girlfriend play it when I watched. So they have this thing called the Dark Pictures Anthology, and it's video games that are about 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to play through. So the games are only like $30. But you could play them a bunch because, you have all these different choices to make and things like that. But they have a host and everything. So it's like
cool.
It's like an anthology series, but it's of choose your own adventure games. So every now and then when you're playing and you're making choices, it'll go to the curator is his name. And the curator will be like, interesting choices you've made.
So it's like Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, and then he'll be like, do you want a hint? Or do you want to continue on your own? And then you'll choose, like, hint or continue on your own.
That's
and if you choose
fun.
hint, then he'll tell you, like, a poem that, like, tells you kind of like, be aware that things underground must often remain there. And you're like, and then the next level, it's like, do you want to go down this basement? And you're like, well, the guy told me not to.
But you have to.
Absolutely, I'm going down into that basement.
Yeah. So is this VR?
Oh, no. These are just regular video games.
I may chance it because that does sound very good.
It's awesome. Yeah. So the one that I played most recently was called Man of Medan, and it takes place on an abandoned World War I ship. And at one point, as you're walking through the halls, like as you go through a door, there's just like a woman standing there, but like not a creepy woman. She's like a woman in a sailor cap that looks like all happy, big smile. And you go like, wait, what the? And then when you walk back through, she's not there anymore.
Oh.
And then you realize that earlier you saw a poster of a woman that looked like that, and now she's just there.
That's creepy.
And then there are pirates on the ship as well. So there's like real threats, but also this like supernatural threat. It opens in World War I, like with why the ship got abandoned and everything. It's good stuff, man.
That sounds good.
But it's really scary.
Yeah.
I recommend forcing any and all romantic partners to play it while you watch.
Okay.
That's what I do. Works out awesome for me.
It's great.
And I get to sit there going, no, go left. Square. I get
She's
to do that.
just like, you told me to play this. Leave me alone. Let me play.
She mostly just goes, and swears really loudly. And I'm just like, oh, come on. And then, and the other thing is, like, when you play Until Dawn or The Quarry, if you choose just right, everyone lives. And if you choose completely wrong, everyone dies. And there's everything in between. So it can end with, like, 4 survivors or 1 survivor or 6 survivors. So whenever it ends, I always tell her, like, good job killing those teenagers. And she's like, I didn't want them to die. And I'm like, whatever you say, pal. That's so cute. Yeah, no, you didn't want them to die. That's why you shook your controller when the werewolf looked at you. Okay. More scares to come after these quick messages.
Well, you were asking about horror films that have scared me as an adult. There have been a couple.
Okay, yeah.
Even though it does take a lot to get under my skin. It's different things.
Sure.
But that movie, Terrified, the Spanish film, have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me. That kid at the dinner table, like when he turns around, just made my skin crawl. Like whenever anybody says that, I'm like, what's that feel like? I knew at that moment, this is what it feels like for my skin to crawl.
Oh, yeah. No, I love when a movie gets me. And I, like I said, not a hard audience, but some flicks really freak me out. Last Shift really freaked me out. Damn near every scene in Event Horizon scares me to death.
Yeah, that movie is very intense.
Oh, and In the Mouth of Madness.
I saw that one when I was like 13 on AMC Fear Fest. And I don't know, there's that trope of where everybody, and it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of thing, where everybody's off, everybody's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, Invaders from Mars, he wakes up and his parents are not who they say they are. Everybody's pretending. That freaks me out. So like a whole town where everybody starts to kind of form together and chase after you, panic. So yeah, In the Mouth of Madness definitely gave me that.
Oh yeah, and then there's that moment where you're like, is everybody crazy, or maybe it's me? Man, is it me? Am I insane? I knew it. I feel like that's always the answer. I'm insane.
Yes.
No, and the more I watch it, the more I appreciate where it goes, because it just keeps pulling. That's a movie that pulls the rug out from under you, and then pulls another rug you didn't know was even there. You're like, what?
Yes.
How is there a second rug? I don't understand. How do you pull one rug and not the other? Doesn't friction make them go together? No. You're going to fall over again, pal.
Magic of Carpenter. Carpenter. That was bad. Excuse me.
I'm going to call the police real quick. Just, Yeah, it's Cameron Chaney. Yeah. No, you can just shoot him. I don't care.
Just make it quick.
Just nice and quick.
Put me out of my misery.
Here's one that scared me legit. Have you seen Wind Chill?
I heard of a movie called The Wind, which was like a western-y thing on Netflix.
Wind Chill's a Christmas horror movie. I want to say Emily Blunt is in it. It's from like 2008.
I recall like seeing that in Blockbuster and stuff, but I never watched it.
It's really scary.
Wow.
So these two people are on a road trip from college. They're not friends, but they're carpooling. And they're driving on this back road, and they end up stuck in the snow and everything like that. But it turns out that this stretch of road is haunted by lots of stuff. Like it turns out that like there was a crooked cop that used to abuse people who got murdered on that road by people who were tired of being taken advantage of. There was a house full of monks who were burned alive in their sleep in the cabin just off the road. So there's like ghost monks, ghost cops, all of these things. But the best part is the ghost cop is the evil ghost, like the deeply evil ghost. And the way you know he's coming is even if the car is off, the radio turns on and plays Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree.
Oh, wow.
So they'll be like asleep and they'll be like, rocking around the Christmas tree. And they're just like looking around because they know that means he's coming. And he's in and it's one of my favorite types of ghosts, time loop ghosts. he doesn't really interact with you. He just says, "So where are you headed?" And then they say, like, "But boy," he's like, "Okay, but what are you carrying?" And then you realize, like, he's always says this. It doesn't matter what you answer. He'll just eventually get to, like, "I don't feel like you're helping me right now. Maybe we should take you in." You know, like, every time they talk to him, it's this loop because he's not really there anymore.
That sounds great.
Get you. It's so scary. Do yourself a favor. This Christmas, you will thank me.
Yeah, that's one that slipped through the cracks because I've told you, like, I love Christmas horror. I didn't realize that was a Christmas movie.
It's one that fell for a lot of people. It slipped through the cracks. Did you ever see Dead End?
No, but I have heard of that. That has Lynn Shay, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're both like a perfect double feature because they are the same concept of like a haunted road.
And they came out about the same time.
But completely different. And Dead End's a lot lower budget as to where Wind Chill is like, you know, massive snow sets. And I think George Clooney was like a producer on it or something. Like it's got a lot going for it. But they're both great. Dead End is more outrageous and fun. And Wind Chill is a lot scarier, but they both have really scary moments. So highly recommend those.
Yeah, the Dead End was one that got put on my radar from, I think, like Shockwaves podcast or something. And I'm like, I've never heard of this.
Oh, it's so good. Lynn Shay's character goes insane in it, but like in that perfect Lynn Shay way.
I love her so much.
That's we need t-shirts that say Lynn Shay way.
Yes. That's great.
That's her martial arts training, the Lynn Shay way. But, okay, so back to books.
Okay.
I am getting close to the bottom, but I do still have a couple.
So we'll just grab this whole thing. I've got 2 more.
All right.
Lots of short story collections. Halloween's the best time for short story collections, I guess.
I agree. That's when everybody listens to the show. I mean, like, we have our regulars, but we go up. Audience can go up at 6 to 8 times in Halloween because people want their scary, spooky little stories.
Yeah, me too. Every Halloween, everything just spikes.
Yep.
Halloween Store and Other Stories of All Hallows Eve by Ronald Kelly, who has written a lot of the vintage horror books. He's very, very well known. He's been writing since, I think, the early 90s, so not too far back, but he's got some really good books. This is newer. It does have some of his older stories, but he also wrote some new stories in this. Really great cover. This is a
human
story.
Jack-o'-lantern.
Yes, this is a story in the book. It does appear, and it's really good.
Nothing beats a human jack-o'-lantern.
So the first story, it felt kind of juvenile to me, and I was like, I don't know about this. But every other story in the book, I loved. So this is really good, and it's short, unlike my other books.
It's a little on the skinny side, which is, you know, good for people who are in a hurry or what have you. So, and then this looks like a classic.
This is great. Legends of Sleepy Hollow is a lot like A Season with the Witch. So you've got in the first part of the book, the original Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, which is a great story that I recommend everybody reads at least once. It's very short, but the rest of it is about the true story of the Headless Horseman. And did he actually exist? Are these legends based off of somebody who actually died in the war and lost their head? You'll have to read the book and find out, but it's extremely fascinating. And this book is great. It's got all kinds of photos and illustrations, and it is short.
And I, like I said, how I'm not the strongest reader, I do like when I can finish something in a night or two.
Yes.
It can motivate me quite a bit.
Yes.
Man.
Of course, Legend of Sleepy Hollow is old, so it's a little bit dense. Even though it's short, it does take you a little bit of time. But once you get to like the nonfiction stuff, it just speeds by. Which, like I said, I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but it's pretty good.
You know, when you do, it's got to be spooky.
It's got to be spooky. It's got to be about horror films. It's got to be anything like that. Yeah. The Loch Ness Monster, the Mothman.
Oh, yeah. We have a story on Weekly Spooky. It was one of our earliest ones called I Had Mothman's Baby. highly recommend that one. It is twisted.
Wow.
It's a disgusting and hilarious and scary story about the realities of having a baby with Mothman.
Sounds terrifying.
I would have to agree, and I can't even have a baby, and I'm like, nah. Well, actually, I mean, Mothman could probably lay eggs wherever he pleases.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting on to a topic I don't think we need to, but
let's just
we'll move away from that. And so before as we wrap up, I don't want to put you on the spot too hard, but like top 3 Halloween movies that take place on Halloween that aren't Halloween.
Yeah. Shot that one down. Night of the Demons.
Yes.
Which you showed at one of your horror movie marathons at Danbury, and everybody chose that movie, I believe.
Yeah, that was the audience selection.
I was there screaming at the top of my lungs because I wanted so bad to see it on the big screen, and it got chosen. I was so happy.
So, and funny story about that night, Octobers, I think you and I share this, Octobers are really rough because they're just so dense with
so much to do.
Not just putting out content, but like little events, movie screenings, or what have you. There's just always so much to do.
And trying to find time to just do simple things like going to a pumpkin patch or a corn maze or something. Like that takes a whole day.
Yeah. No, it does. Or like a buddy of mine was trying to get me in for a haunt. And I tried to warn him. I'm like, dude, once October starts, I'll try.
Yeah.
But it's hard because like, and this year Weekly Spooky's putting out, like, this is one of like 25 pieces of content we're putting out. We're trying something new where since the audience is massive at Halloween, we're giving them everything we got. And
take a deep breath.
But that being said, that night at Horrorama, when we voted on a movie, I was so happy because Night of the Demons was one of the only films of the season that I hadn't gotten around to. So I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I am going to get to watch Night of the Demons this season.
Oh, so you hadn't seen it yet?
Not that year, I mean.
Okay.
I watch it every single year.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So, and this year I have all of the 4K Steelbooks pre-ordered for 1, 2, and 3. I've always loved 3.
I've not seen 2 or 3, so this will be my first time seeing them.
2 is directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who, in my opinion, should be most known for taking the Leprechaun to space.
Oh, right.
He has a good time. The man knows action, and you'll have a great time with it. 3 was shot in Canada, cheaply, and in my opinion, it looks and sounds like the sleaziest episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark ever made. It even has some actors from Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are you serious?
Just Canadian character actors.
That's going to be a big treat for me.
It's amazing because like it's like garishly lit, all blues and stuff, and then like there's a kid character saying like blah 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 blah, but then it cuts to like a guy and a girl, and the girl takes her top off, and you're like, oh yeah, this is Night of the Demons 3.
It's not an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. That's how I feel about Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2, which has a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark vibes in it, which apparently a maker on Are You Afraid of the Dark was like the set designer or something.
Oh, was it Rial Prolux?
It may have been. I can't remember his name, but
I only remember that because Rial Prolux, first of all, such an odd name, and number 2, they're on every single episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I noticed after a while that I saw the same name over and over and over and over and over.
But apparently that's why, because every single time I watch the movie, I'm like, this really is like Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then I found that out. I'm like, well, now it makes sense.
It all starts to make sense. But there's just something about that, like, almost made-for-TV, cheap production values, except it's a Night of the Demons movie, so it's got sex and drugs and violence and demons and decapitations. All the things Are You Afraid of the Dark, wanted, but couldn't have.
No.
So, so Night of the Demons is your number 1. Well, no particular order.
It's in there.
We'll have to be there.
Yeah. I don't know how I would even be able to rank them.
Oh, no, ranking is too hard. That's why I went with 3 instead of 5. That way it's just off the top of your head and then move on. So you've got Night of the Demons. What's your next one?
Probably a safe one that everybody counts is Trick or Treat.
Okay, yeah.
Which, of course, I love short stories and anthologies, and this is an anthology film, but they all tie together.
And it's an anthology and a horror film about Halloween.
Yes.
Not about a night on Halloween, but about the traditions and the spooky nature and the scary folklore that makes Halloween, which is what made that movie stand out to me personally.
It takes place in Ohio as well.
And near Youngstown, doesn't it?
Yeah. Michael Dougherty is from Ohio, so...
Well, there you go. Should have set Godzilla, King of the Monsters in Ohio. Missed opportunity.
He would have a very easy time stomping down all the little houses.
Yeah, really. And I mean, it's just a nice flat, go for
He's
it.
like, I can run through here.
So you've got Night of the Demons, Trick or Treat. What is your last of this random 3?
And that's where it gets hard, because it's like, oh, God.
Yeah. You're going to leave something out and everyone's going to judge you for it.
Yes. I only got 3.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it simple. That way we're not, racking our brains. It's like, I just want the emotional choices.
I want to say Hocus Pocus, but I can't say Hocus Pocus.
Okay.
That's the one that everybody watches, and it's not a horror film per se, but I grew up with it, and I watched it not just at Halloween, but literally like every other month I would watch it when I was a kid.
See, I'm more of an Ernest Scared Stupid than a Hocus
Oh, you
Pocus.
see, that's another one, though. That's another one. Oh, see, it's too hard. But yeah. Sleepy Hollow. Tim Burton's.
Oh, that's a good one.
Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. That's another amazing movie.
The one with Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Obviously, yeah. Well,
Yes.
he said Tim Burton, so it's like obviously it's
Yes.
Johnny Depp. So you heard it here. The only movies worth watching at Halloween are... No. You're like, please stop.
Let me think about it for like 3 days and get you a comprehensive list.
Whenever people say, like, what are your 3 favorite movies? I'm like, that depends on what I ate today,
Yeah.
what time I got up, how much sleep did I get, like,
Yes.
did I have a good day, did I have a bad day, was I thinking about taxes? Like, they all affect it. So I'll give you a top 3 off the top of my head just to relieve some suffering for you.
Yes.
Murder Party.
I've never seen
You've
it.
never seen Murder... Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. You've never seen Murder Party?
No.
You've seen Green Room, right?
No, I've heard of Green Room.
You've never seen Green Room either.
No.
Blue Ruin?
No.
You've never seen Blue Ruin?
No.
Wow, well, you've never seen this guy's work. It's really good.
Okay.
And Murder Party was his first film before he made it huge with Green Room.
Okay.
It takes place in New York City, and there is this group of artists who are throwing a murder party in a nondescript warehouse in New York. And this random guy finds an invitation and goes there, and it turns out that the plan is to murder him for an art piece.
Uh-huh.
But everyone is so self-absorbed and selfish and rude and petty that it kind of never happens.
Uh-huh.
But maybe it does, but not in the way you think.
So this isn't like a murder mystery dinner party.
No, it is the best part. One of the best parts is he like shows up and they're all like surprised. And when they tie him up and stuff, it's like, are we really going to kill him? He's like, hey, anybody who's dumb enough to show up to a murder party deserves to die. Because the note just says you have been invited to a murder party.
Wow.
So,
Smart.
Murder Party, phenomenal. You could grab the DVD for like $8.
Okay.
That was a random rental at Blockbuster I made one in like 2006 or 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Blew me away. Really fun. It's got chainsaw foo. It's got all kinds of craziness.
I'm sold.
And you'll never guess what happens next. And that's the best part about it. It's just like it unravels. Just let it unravel.
That sounds great.
That is one, for the love of God.
Okay.
You will enjoy it so much. You'll send me a message and be like, dude, how did I live without Murder Party? And I'll be like, I don't know. Maybe you've just been born. So Murder Party. Oh gosh.
It's hard.
I know it. That's why I made you go first. Okay, so we got Murder Party. You already got Night of the Demons. I'm not going to cop out with a Night of the Demons sequel. I'm going to be better than that. Oh man, this is super duper hard because you got some of the best ones. Mm-hmm. A movie that always makes me feel Halloweeny but isn't necessarily on Halloween is the Night of the Living Dead remake, the 1990.
Which is very good.
Which is super good.
Yeah.
And that one always makes me feel like Halloween. Mm-hmm. I think because it was on TV a lot during Halloween. And then one year when I first got my first Roku box, I had Crackle, that kind of cheesy Tubi before Tubi thing. But they had Night of the Living Dead 90 on there, and that was when it was like completely out of print. Mm-hmm. So I remember watching it on Crackle and being like, hey, I love this movie. And it was around Halloween. So that one always makes me think of Halloween. I don't know if that's a cop-out, though.
Well, I think Night of the Living Dead, the original, it always plays on Halloween as well.
Public domain.
Right.
Well, sort of.
And then if anybody is watching a movie on Halloween in a movie, it's always Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Public domain.
Oh, yeah. No, they always watch it.
Or Carnival of Souls, which has nothing to do with Halloween at all, but they're always watching it in horror films.
I love when I spot Carnival of Souls in the background.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's a great film.
It is. It's genuinely great. It's full of existential dread.
Have you seen The Messiah of Evil?
Not yet, but I am dying to get my hands on that 4K box set that they're going to put out because I missed out on the other one.
I did too. It's very like, they're similar in some ways.
I've seen the cinema scene where she's in the movie theater, and I was like,
it's just more and more
like Carnival
zombies.
of Souls.
Yeah, no, it's super good.
Yeah.
It's super good. I can't recommend that one enough. If I go with a cop out of Night of the Living Dead 90, yeah, and then I guess See, and I know a bunch that I love, but I don't know if I call them my favorites. Like, I love how, like, I have a poster for The Fear Resurrection, which is alternate title is The Fear Halloween Night, because it takes place on Halloween night, and they have a costume party, even though there are like 6 of them, and they all know who each other are, and it's like...
Have you seen Hack-O-Lantern?
Of course I've seen Hack-O-Lantern. What kind of operation you think we're running here, man?
That was a great one.
I love Hack-O-Lantern.
That is full of Halloween goodness. Flesh Eater, that unofficial Night of the Living, that has a Halloween party in it.
That is just stupid fun.
It is.
It is nothing but fun.
Yes.
I've had to explain to people how wrong they are when they say it's a bad movie.
No.
I'm like, no. That is pure entertainment value, and you watch your tongue if you like this job. You know? Don't go away. Weekly Spooky will be right back. But I don't feel like it's not Halloween without those movies.
Right. And then there's all of the Halloween specials as well.
Oh, gosh,
which are endless. You dig forever. I reach the bottom.
Very partial to the Mark Summers Halloween special with Lance Burton, the magician, on it.
I don't think I've seen it.
It takes place at the Magic Castle in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Where basically Mark Summers is, for some reason, driving a car with children that are not his. Like, there's 3 kids. One of them is Jonathan Brandis.
Oh, really?
And they're driving a car. It breaks down. They end up outside of a building, which turns out to be the Magic Castle, and they need a phone. But all these crazy things happen where there's like a sword fight, and Lance Burton, the magician, is there, and he like sword fights with the guy in a mask. But then when the guy in the mask gets stabs Lance Burton falls down, and then like blah, 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 and then the guy in the mask is Lance Burton because it's all magic stuff.
It's great.
It's super fun and silly. You can find that on YouTube. It's ridiculous, and there's no good copy either. So you're gonna watch one with with their commercials still in it and stuff.
Which is, I think, is great. I like the commercials.
Oh, I love just going on YouTube and just typing in like 90s Halloween commercials.
Yes, me too.
Because it's like Duracell, but with Frankenstein.
Right.
Now
Everybody had a Halloween commercial back then, and now, like, back in the day, I'd record the X-Files or Buffy off of TV. I was always trying to cut out the commercials and pause it at just the right spot. And now I'm like, damn it, I should have kept all those commercials.
In the what used to be tape trading space, but now is like the closed BitTorrent area. Now they're closed BitTorrents. There's like a big movement for like Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs, Project Metal Beast, and then it says with commercials.
Buzzwords. It sells it.
I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, ooh, I want to see that one Slim Jim commercial 80 times, you know, again.
There was a segment that Elvira hosted on MTV where she was like sharing all of her favorite spooky, dark music videos. And you can find it online with all of the music videos and all the commercials. And it's like 4 hours long. Just put it on in the background and just let it play.
That sweet, sweet nostalgia. I'm copping out. What is the last one? I mean, I think I might have to go with Ernest Scared Stupid, and that way,
It's a great movie.
that way we also both have a family-friendly one.
Yes.
In our list, because Ernest Scared Stupid is pure Halloween fun.
Yes,
and I love it.
And I love that intro too, with all of the old 50s B movies. Oh, yeah. When I saw it when I was a kid, I was like, I want to watch every single one of these and track them all down.
But I am going to replace Night of the Living Dead 90 with an actual Halloween movie, though. This is one I always watch that a lot of people don't. Satan's Little Helper.
Yes. I have seen that movie twice.
Oh, do you have the Bluray?
Yes. Yes,
it is so good.
It's so much better than it used to be.
And
it was all blurry before.
When they were authoring the disc, Don May at Synapse sent me a screen cap. He like took a picture of the screen because the little kid all grown up, he looks like me.
Really?
He's got like really long hair and like a goatee beard and thick glasses. So Don May took a picture. He was like, I didn't know you were the little kid in Satan's Little Helper.
Wow.
I was like, there are a lot of things you don't know about me, sir. I live a very interesting life, you say.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I love Amanda Plummer as well.
She's wonderful, and she's wonderful in it because she's such a, and I mean this with love, she's such a wackadoo.
Yeah.
And in that movie, she gets to be like that charming, wacky mom.
Yes.
And I love charming, wacky moms.
Yes. And so she's the best one. She's also in a Tales from the Crypt episode, which is wild.
Oh, God.
I don't have to say anything about it. Just go watch it.
Now, and this is not a trap before I let you out of here. Have you seen Babysitter Massacre? My Halloween movie.
I am sorry to say I haven't, but I'm going to.
Well, you're going to leave with a copy of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I like how it sounds like I planned this. I didn't, but I have. I have them. So I'm
Yes,
going to hook you up
please.
with a blue
Yes,
of it because
please.
it is my Halloween opus.
Yes.
And the sequel that we are in production on finally after
Mm-hmm.
all these years is at Christmas. It's going to take place 3 months after the events of that first one, or 2 months after the events. So it's going to be like immediately after the Christmas version.
That's great.
And so no, I will hook you up with a copy of
Yes.
the movie I made for people to put on at Halloween time, and you can tell me what you think of it.
I will let you know.
I hope you'll enjoy it. So before we get out of here, I just want to remind everybody to check out your book, your brand new book, Autumncrow High, Fresh Hell.
It's here.
And it's available on Amazon and probably barnesandnoble.com, right? Or
Probably so,
But
yeah.
Amazon's probably the easiest way to go. And we get the biggest cut if you buy it on Amazon.
Yeah.
So, hey, you know what? You can say what you want about Amazon, but Amazon completely reinvented self-publishing to make
Yes.
it more friendly to authors.
Yes.
So in that way, Mazel tov.
Yeah, it's made it a lot easier. And, Amazon is evil in a lot of ways, but makes it a lot easier to publish. Because, otherwise it's so expensive.
Yeah. So for the people who are listening to this who may not know you, check out your not website, but your YouTube channel. It's Library of Macabre, of Library Macabre.
That's right.
Of Macabre.
Or
Library Macabre.
You can search my name as well, Cameron Chaney.
Which is a great name and your real name.
That's my real name.
Yeah, and mine too. I have my people think my name's fake too. It's the Chaney. Although I went to school with like 2 or 3 Cheneys.
There's a lot of Cheneys out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it makes you think of Lon Chaney, but
Yes.
no, it's Cameron Chaney.
I used to love to think that I was related to Lon Chaney. In fact, I have 2 uncles who are twins, Lon Chaney and Ron Chaney.
Lon Chaney and Ron Chaney.
Which Ron Chaney is Lon Chaney Jr.'s son.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So yeah, I was always like, I'm related to Lon Chaney, senior and junior.
NBD. Just me.
I'm not.
Nah, that's okay. There is no one famous with the last name Kuto, so I am not related to them, obviously.
It's not as common as Chaney.
No, it's not. And for those who are watching this on your channel, if you want to check out Weekly Spooky, where we publish true crime stories on Monday, we publish literary stories on Wednesdays, and Fridays are a wild card. Sometimes we do spooky movie reviews, sometimes we do Edgar Allan Poe readings, we do all kinds of stuff. Just go to weeklyspooky.com or punch Weekly Spooky into whatever podcast app you like.
And I know a lot of my audience loves podcasts, so they're going to come and check you out.
And I know my audience loves to read, so I really hope they check out Library Macabre.
I hope so too.
So look at the synergy we got going here. Man. So until next time, thank you all so much for listening, and to have the last word, you're my guest or I'm your guest. They're all good.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe. There we go.
All right.
It covers both platforms.